Hello everybody out there, it's me, Tarantula Force, and today we're going over Thrixopelma Sullana Velvet, also known as the Sullana Velvet tarantula. They are a dwarf species. They're a species that I wouldn't have ordinarily got into if not for the fact that I saw them and I thought that they were actually really cheap. So I thought I would take a chance and be like, yeah, let's get them in my collection. I got a trio and I ended up breeding them. So this video is the process of taking care of them, what their needs are, how big they get, some just basics and some basics of tarantula keeping. And I really hope that what you take away is how cool this species is, and then we can popularize them, because I think that they're just underrated. Let's get them out there. Let's talk about Sullana Velvets. Let's talk about tarantula breeding. And I know I could sit in the backyard all day and just gush about what I like about this little species, or we could get to the content. So let's go ahead, hop on over, and let's learn more about Sullana Velvet tarantulas. So like I said in the opening part of the video, I wouldn't have ordinarily gotten this species. They are not super handleable just because they're very fast and flighty and nervous. You're about to see this one fly off my hand and run in the opposite direction, ready to go. They could give NASCAR a run for their money, but they're also not aggressive. I would just say that they're not for beginners because of their speed, but their care is pretty easy. They really needed an upgrade, but I did keep them in Tupperware because they are a dwarf species, which is also a bonus. They don't require a lot of space. They just don't. They're small. This is an adult female. She at this size, this is not the one that gave me babies, that gave me an egg sac. She's an adult female, and she's absolutely gorgeous, and she fits into the palm of your hand pretty easily. Look at that golden carapace and the golden stripes on her knees. This species isn't just a solid brown tarantula. It actually does have quite a bit of color, and this one did just mold out. So you can see that golden striping on the knees, the golden carapace, the dark brown chocolatey color, and I do believe they have a little mirror patch on their abdomen where their urticating hairs are. It is a species that I think is quite lovely. It gives some brachypelmas a run for their money, and yet it is just not that common in the hobby. It's not that popular. I don't know why, but it would be great if we could all help popularize the species, and maybe you'd want to do some too. There it goes. Shoo, just runs right off again. This is the mother. I just kept her with a water dish, and I keep these guys with one half the enclosure moist, one half the enclosure dry, and she ended up giving me a lovely little egg sac. I don't have footage of the breeding process itself, but I do have everything else in the breeding process. She did end up giving me a gorgeous egg sac that had over 150 babies, but we'll get into that afterward. I pulled the egg sac at about 5 to 6 weeks. You don't have to pull egg sacs, but it is occasionally recommended because otherwise you have to separate out all of the little baby tarantulas that are inside of the enclosure with the mother and make sure that they haven't escaped out of any possible ventilation holes. So pulling them helps you separate them better. It also helps you keep track of the babies a lot better. Here is the incubator that I set up. There's a lot of tutorials out there, so you can choose the right incubator for you. This one is a little bit of mix that I created based off of what I read online, saw online, and based off of my past experiences with egg sacs, because I was in the past having issues with mold. So what I did was took vermiculite instead of using water. Some people use water at the bottom. I just used moist vermiculite that I made damp, but not so wet that you can squeeze water out of it. You shouldn't be able to do that. Just make it, it's kind of damp. It is in a tall deli cup that actually was used previously to house fruit flies in, so you can see that. I also use another deli cup that I cut the bottom out of. That's what you do. And also, yes, this is ladies nylon that you cut the foot part out of, and you stretch it on the inside deli cup, and that is part of the incubator. But there's tutorials on that. Anyway, I took the egg sac. I did pour out the babies. These are Instar 1. They're not really eggs with legs anymore. They've got their legs. It's kind of like a middle part. And they're not Instar 2. These should be Instar 1, but it kind of depends on who you ask. I did leave the egg sac in here because I thought that it would help them, and it did help them because I was worried about having too much humidity, because in the past I was losing egg sacs to mold, and that was an issue, which is why I switched from using water at the bottom to using vermiculite. And I thought that the egg sac would give them a place to run into and hide if maybe they needed more moisture, or they could leave if they didn't need it. Part of keeping these guys, or having all these babies, is cups, lots of little cups with holes punched in them. I use like a thumbtack and I just punch the holes in. And then once they're about instar 2 and they've molted, I mean, you can separate them out earlier, but I waited till instar 2. You can take the little cups that you filled with dirt. I use Reptisoil for the dirt. It's not actual dirt, it's Reptisoil. And the cups with holes, and make sure you have enough cups with holes, or you're gonna have to like do this in batches. I ended up doing it in batches because I ran out of cups. You're gonna need a paintbrush and a lot of patience, and you go through gently, one sling at a time, and you put them into the cups. Pretty sure that I don't have footage of that, but I do have the end result to doing this, which is just taking all these little baby slings, taking a paintbrush, gently moving them into the cup, and then closing it on top. Okay, so now I have all these little babies in cups. I think I ended up with 177 of them. But part of tarantula breeding is kind of going over species, not just that you like. Part of it should be that you really enjoy the species. I wish it was just that, but pretty much you should also be finding species that people want to buy. That was kind of a mistake on my part, but I have been finding homes for these guys. I'm not asking anybody out there to be like, yeah, come buy them, because I mean, it'd be cool, but that's not why. I'm just saying that if you are interested in breeding tarantulas, definitely think about the whole thing, not just getting an egg sac, because that's super exciting when you get an egg sac, and it's even more exciting when you get little baby tarantulas that you pour out of the egg sac into your incubator, and you're like, I did it, I bred tarantulas, because I had not being successful in the past, but now like I'm getting more successful anyway and getting more egg sacs. Think about getting homes for them. Think about what species that you enjoy. Find a balance between species you enjoy and whether or not they have homes. So anyway, I guess what I'm really trying to say is let's just make Thrixopelma sp Sullana Velvet more popular. They have pretty golden carapaces. They have carapaces. They have gorgeous golden knees. It's not quite as gorgeous as a flame knee, you know, the Brachypelma auratum. It's not like that, but it is in its own right a beautiful species. So I hope that you do go out and find them. I've got some. There are Sullana Velvet breeders out there. I know you can get slings. The slings are very small because it is a dwarf species, but they grow seemingly kind of fast. Mine were already bigger when I got them, but it took about 2 years, and I think they were like this big when I got them. So it is going to take a while, but you will enjoy keeping them. They are a hardy species. They're just fast, so that's why I recommend them for intermediate keepers. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and that if you're interested in breeding tarantulas, just think about some of the things that I said. You're going to have a lot of babies. It's really tedious. I feed them fruit flies, I feed them little baby crickets, and you have to take that cup and you have to put a little baby cricket in there, and you have to close that lid, and they're going to run out, and you have to catch them and put them back in again. It's a whole thing. So do as much research as possible, and if you're like, yes, let's do this, breed a tarantula. Find homes for them. Spread that love, spread that passion. That's kind of what it's all about in the hobby. So thanks again for watching this video. I know it's kind of long, but I wanted to make it thorough. Have an excellent day. Enjoy the sun if you've got sun. Enjoy the weather if it's great, and if it's not great, just have a great day. Thanks for watching another Tarantula Forest video. Have a good one.